Hi friends, it's been a very long time since I've actually posted anything, and the reason is not really quite as interesting as you might think. I graduated from school, I found a job, and then I've also sort of lost interest in like posting on socials and stuff like that, but I've realized that I still have a significant backlog of videos, and I think that I will post them as I go, and I think that as I post them I'll probably find my interest and my passion, not passion but really just the want to post a little bit more in YouTube videos and maybe social media content in the future. And also my hair is bothering me. I have a little bit of a tail here. I hope that doesn't bother anyone. I probably will now since I just said it. But anyway, today's video is not going to be a sewing video, it's going to be a little bit more of a book haul, and I've never done a book haul on this channel before because this channel is a sewing channel. I don't know why I'm getting so worked up. But basically I have bought more books in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 3 years. And I used to say I used to tell my friends, oh, I bought more books in the last 2 weeks than I've bought in the last 2 years. But because I've not stopped buying books since then, I have really just accumulated books like an insane person. So most of the books are sort of Victorian books because that's what I like to read. Before I go into that, I will say that some of these books have been read already, some of these books are in the process of being read, and because I don't want to confuse myself, I am just going to show you the books as I have them, and then I'll have a few more honorable mentions at the end, and I'll talk about, so at the end I'll talk about what I think are like good easy reads if you want to get into Victorian literature. So okay, I'll start with the I call this the pretty pile because this is the pretty pile of like pocket classic books. So these are the Flame Tree Classics that you can get from Book Depository, and you can also get them from Kinokuniya if you live in Singapore. This is Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. I finished this. I'm okay with it. I do see why people like it. I liked some parts of it. I did not like all of the parts of it because in the end I felt that everyone was just very mean. But that is the story of Wuthering Heights. But I liked the love parts of it, I guess. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I would give this a 7 out of 10. I would reread this in the future though. The next one I got is Hard Times by Charles Dickens. I am currently reading this. I am almost done. I am about like, I have like this much left. I don't know if you can see the bookmark. But I like this a lot. I won't give this a rating yet because I haven't finished it, but looking at how things go, it's probably going to be like an 8.5. I really like Dickens books. I read Dombey and Son for my dissertation because my dissertation was on trains. I'm supposed to put a video out on that, but I've not no time. I've had no time. And then the next one is these are the what are they called? I keep forgetting because I always look for them. Oh, Macmillan Collector's Library. So the reason why I knew of these collection of books was because my Sherlock Holmes books are from Macmillan Collector Library, so they're sort of the small pocket book. I like these I like this size, but I think that it's a bit hard on my eyes when I try to read them at night, but I take them around like as I go about my day-to-day because it's nice to just like, it's the size of my phone, so my phone's this size, books this size. It's about the same size. I think if you had the iPhone, the bigger iPhone, the iPhone Max, I think the book would be actually quite small, a little bit smaller compared to that book. So yeah, so I've got The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. I've finished most of it. I think I read The Happy Prince before, but I don't know where, because when I read the story I was like, I know this story. And I got Ghost Stories by Charles Dickens, which I will read during Halloween. Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. I will read this for the book club, and I have to finish this by the end of the month because my book club is at the end of the month. And then Jonathan Swift's Gulliver Charles. I'm pretty sure I've read this book before, but I just kind of wanted to reread it again. And also Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, which may or may not be Victorian. When was this published? I always get confused as who is Victorian and who is not Victorian. I have no idea when was this published. But anyway, I will just say this is honorary mention Virginia Woolf. And then the other Virginia Woolf that I got was, this is a secondhand book that I got from Carousel, which is kind of like eBay or Vestair. I thought Vestair. Is it Vestair Collective? No, it's the other one. Poshmark, I guess, that they sell secondhand things. So this is Virginia Woolf's short stories. Actually, I just need to check when was this published, and I will kind of figure out. Okay. I wouldn't say this is Victorian, but I think Virginia Woolf. I love Virginia Woolf's books. I read Mrs. Dalloway, and a little bit of A Room of One's Own for feminism, my feminism module, which is great. And the next one I have is Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw. This I really want to read. It's the, I mean, I think everyone knows it's the inspiration of My Fair Lady. Edith Wharton's Age of Innocence. I love this painting, by the way. I love it. I love these, I love the Penguin Classics, and they always put the sort of the old painting on it. I love that so much. And then Katherine Mansfield's short stories, which I have read, I guess, a good portion of it. I love her short stories. I read Garden Party for, I think one of my introduction to literature courses, and I absolutely adored it, so I was like, I'm definitely going to read it. And I really like her short stories. I mean, reading this, I know why she's the sort of the originator of the short story genre. It's great. I think you could probably find a smaller version of this because this is like kind of 50. And then A Modern Mephistopheles by Louisa May Alcott. I love this book so much. This is actually two stories, Modern Mephistopheles and A Whisper in the Dark. I've only read Modern Mephistopheles, which is a retelling of the Faust tale. And I love this so much. I would give this like a 9.5, probably a 10. But I would say I'm kind of biased because I loved retellings of the Faust tale. I loved Dr. Faustus. I'm reading Faust by Goethe now, and then I'm going to read Thomas Mann's Dr. Faustus when I finish reading Faust Part 1 and Part 2, because that is long. But I really like this book a lot. I highly recommend it. It's not very long. It's a novella pretty much. Yeah, and I think it's kind of, I guess it's a very underrated part of Louisa May Alcott's writing career. And then the next one that I'm currently reading as well is Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell. I like this, but I can see that people might find this a little bit boring because not much happens, but I really like books where not much happens. So it's basically a sort of, Cranford is the name of the town, and then the narrator sort of lives in the town, and she kind of just goes around and stuff like that, and she's talking to all her neighbors, and then her neighbors retell their stories to her as well. And I like this a lot. It's a very comforting read. I always read this before I sleep. Okay, the first thing I do and the last thing I do is read. So when I wake up in the morning, I read before breakfast, and then before I sleep at night, I read. And I think this is such a nice book to read before I sleep because it's like so comforting, and it's like, oh, they describe the town and then the countryside, and it's beautiful, and I like it so much. And I'm looking up there because I realized I have one book that I haven't talked about, which is George Eliot's The Mill and the Floss. I did not buy this. I was given this when I bought, I think when I bought this book, the person who sold me this book gave me this one as well. And I'm actually really looking forward to reading this because I tried reading Middlemarch. I tried reading Middlemarch a couple, maybe about a year ago, and I got about not very much in before I realized that I do not have time, and I also am starting to forget the characters. But I did like Middlemarch when I read it, and I will read it again. I will actually read it properly one day. The other George Eliot book that I got is Silas Marner. Marner? I realized not said this out loud, but this is a shorter one. As you can see, it's not quite so long. And it's basically about a linen weaver who is accused of a crime, a heinous theft that is actually committed by his best friend. So he exiles himself to a village, and then you find out his story. And I'm really excited too. Okay, I don't know what you realize, but I don't like reading books that have women suffering in them because I feel like I just feel so sad for them. So I much prefer to read stories where it's, so for example, like Dickens is a little bit more, the narrator is definitely a lot less emotionally involved with the story. Like the narrator is sort of taking a step back, and I kind of like that a lot more because I get very emotionally sort of affected by stories, I think. So I try not to read things that make me too stressed, which brings me to my next book, which is not really Victorian but deserves an honorable mention, which is Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. I picked up this book knowing that it will be sad, but I decided to read it because I love the musical. And I do not regret reading this book. I would say that I'm not actually all that done. I know this is the bookmark is here, but I've read the back part, so I skipped a bit and then I read the back and then I read some of the important parts. So I can't really say I finished this, but it's about 35% finished. I will finish this eventually. It just got too sad for me because I felt that the book starts out sad, the middle part is sad, everything is just sad, everyone is sad. So, but I don't want to say this in the sense that I'm complaining about the book, because I do really like it. Du Maurier's writing style is gorgeous. It's very metaphorical, which reminds me that I have actually one more book that I didn't take down, but I'll talk about it because it's not actually Victorian. But anyway, so she writes in a sort of very metaphorical way, in a very, very beautiful way that I think if you've watched the musical, which I think a lot of people probably wouldn't because it's German, the musical. So anyway, I was talking about this book. Basically, if you've ever watched the musical, the book is very, very close to the musical, except for one detail, which I will not say what the detail is. But it made me have a new appreciation for the people who wrote the musical because it's so much closer. And also, if you can hear the vacuum in the background, I'm sorry. But yeah, it is very sad. But this book is very sad. Don't read it if you don't like sad books, I guess. But I will finish it eventually. I give it like an 8 actually out of 10. But it's the kind of book that I have to read in, I don't know, like I can't, because when I read this I could not put it down, but I could not put it down because I was like, I really wanted to finish it. But it's also very sad. I don't know whether my words make sense. I probably don't, but this is a good book. It's not a Victorian book. It's written like in the 40s, I think, but I think it's a classic. It's a classic. The next one I have, which is not really, well, it is kind of Victorian, I guess. I don't know. Faust, which I've talked about just now, so I won't go through it very much because I've only just started. I know this looks deceptive because the introduction is like this much. I only read like 10 pages, I think, but I like it. I mean, I like the Faust tales. And of course, I also got Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. I read this for class, and I can't remember if I read the A text or the B text. I have to go email my teacher and ask, but I think I'll just reread everything, and then I'll reread some of his other plays as well, because I really, really like his plays. And almost there. This is The Masque of Red Death and Other Stories by Edgar Allan Poe. I have his poetry book that is actually what the camera is sitting on right now, but I decided to, I really like reading short stories. Well, yeah, I do like reading short stories. So I thought that I should just get this book and read all of it. And also The Masque of Red Death is like a plague, so kind of, I guess it's very relevant. And the last, okay, I will talk about two books that are really, really not Victorian. They're more like historical fiction. But I thought I'll just include it since this is my video anyway. First one is Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. I have to read this because, well, just because I think it's a really, I mean, I love like Shakespearean and then, you know, the Elizabethan era. So I feel like I would probably like this book a lot, or at least appreciate it a lot, because sometimes you don't really like books but you appreciate the writing style. I think that was my journey with Rebecca, so I will read this book. The other book that I will not take down from the shelf is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I do not like that book, but I think some people would like it. I just found the book way too sad with no sort of resolution, because it's like, you know, I feel like the witch trope is overused, and I swear to God, if I read another book about witches that is written in the last 10 years, I am going to throw the book out of the window. Okay, it's hyperbole, but like I find the witch trope a little bit overused, and I do not like it very much. So I will not. I do see why some people like Hamlet. I know some people liked Hamlet. I did not like it. My professor didn't like it. It's way too sad. But I think if you like Shakespeare, I don't know. I know I'm like so wishy-washy on this, but I really don't know whether I would recommend it. It's okay. I would give it like a 6. 5.5. Anyway, now the portion of the video, which is why I'm like ducking my head around, is all the recommendations for easy, not really easy to read, but like sufficiently easy to read Victorian-ish books. So obviously, I don't know why I'm looking up there. So I think the first one that I would recommend if you wanted to read sort of the behemoth of Victorian literature, which is Dickens, I think Hard Times is really sort of the best that you can get, because it is very short. Okay, I know I say this, and it's about the same length as Wuthering Heights if you put them side to side. But if you see like Oliver Twist, oh, this is Wuthering Heights as Dickens. It's about, okay, Dickens is a little bit shorter, I think, but like I think if you've read the other ones, Dombey and Son was very long. You would probably see why I would say that Hard Times is actually pretty short, and it's very readable. And I think that, I mean, I feel like Dickens, a lot of people nowadays see Dickens and they think, oh, it's so difficult, but Dickens writes in a way that is very humorous and very easy to understand, and I really like that. And I just really like Dickens. So Hard Times is a good one. I think the ghost stories, I've read some of his short stories for my dissertation, and I think they're very good. And especially now that Halloween, well, I say now Halloween's coming out, it's 2 months to Halloween. Once autumn rolls around, I think people would like that, to read ghost stories during that time. So yeah, the other one that I would recommend for like Victorian light literature would be the Sherlock Holmes series. Hold on, I'm just gonna bring mine down. So I got this. I have no idea where I got this. I feel like I might have got it at the Sherlock Holmes Museum, but I'm not very sure. But anyway, I love the Sherlock Holmes series. I think it's so interesting, and I love Watson and Sherlock, and I think I just have, this is so dusty. I have nothing but good things to say about the Sherlock Holmes series. In fact, I liked it so much that I'm like, and now I want to go and find all of the detective stories, because I really just adore it so much. But yeah, I don't, so if you want to say about like how difficult the language is, this is definitely a lot easier than Dickens. Dickens can sometimes write in a way that I guess is a little bit hard to understand, which is understandable. I guess it's like Dickens. So yeah, this is great. The other few that I have want to recommend would be anything written by Edith Nesbit, so like The Railway Children, and then I think the other one is called The Thing Called It. So I read Railway Children for my dissertation. I really liked it. It's very easy to read because it's written for kids, but it's still considered, well, it's kind of sort of Edwardian, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I like that a lot, and I think a lot of people would like that. Anyway, and to be honest, I feel like if you talk about Louisa May Alcott, I think her books are pretty readable. I love short story, as you probably have heard me say in like the last 10 minutes. But yeah, to be honest, one of the reasons why I haven't been on socials that much is because I realized that it wasn't that I wasn't reading before. I always read, whether it was for school or for my own pleasure, but I realized that reading provides me a sort of satisfaction that being on social media can never bring to me. And while I don't want to be the kind of person that sort of eschews technology for antiquity, I guess, I realized that social media will not help me to achieve my goals of like being well read and like, you know, knowing more things for the most part of it. So I have sort of decided that, you know, social media, if anything, it would be a job to me, just like anything else. it will be like YouTube. That YouTube is a job. Oh, it's not really a job, but it's like, you know, it's not something I do for fun. Well, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, so that's what I've kind of decided, that I will read more. I will not be on socials that much, but I mean, if you want to talk to me, just message me. I will always talk to anyone. One book that I recommend, which is not anything related to fiction, is Reader Come Home by Maryanne Wolf. And reading that book, I would say, sort of changed my attitude towards how I use the internet and social media, because that book talks about how reading has changed, because everything we consume now is short form content. I mean, like, if you see TikTok is short form content. And then the other day I was reading an article on the Washington Post, and it was basically Insta story style, where it was like an image and then words, and you can click and then it goes to the next. And I felt very sad, because it's like, it really shows that people don't read anymore. But yeah, because of that, I realized that, you know, people, like the social media, people who run social media do not have our best interests at heart. And I think that we should look at social media the same way as we look at fast food. So it should be consumed in moderation. It's fine to, you know, it's fine to eat a fast food once in a while, but it should not be all the time. And yeah, so Maryanne Wolf, Reader Come Home. It's a very good book. Some of the parts are a bit dense, but she really tries to connect it to our daily lives. And so I think to make sure that I have the concentration span to read a book, I will not go on social media as often as I maybe did in the past. So that is my short spiel on reading and social media and all that, and I hope you have a nice day. And if you guys want me to do more videos like this, I will do it, because I like talking about books. And hopefully I will not buy so many books. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day, and see you in the next one. Bye!